going nuts. Oh, there's a lot of, oh, look at the deck. Yes, baby.
On Father's Day in 2017, I went on what could only be described as an epic fishing trip. Myself and 2 other members of my family rolled out to catch 100 plus keeper speckled trout and left them biting. It was one of the best, if not the best, summertime speckled trout bites that I had ever been on. But there's an important detail about this fishing trip that sets it apart from others. There was a lot of cloud cover. Why is this a big deal? How did these clouds impact the speckled trout? What occurred on this particular summer fishing trip that set it apart from all the others? To answer these questions, we must first look at the best time to launch your boat during summer, when targeting speckled trout. When is the best time to launch your boat to catch summer specks? When it comes to speckled trout fishing during the summer, you really want to get out on the water early. How early? Well, I can be seen leaving the dock for as early as 5 a.m., especially in June and July around the summer solstice. The reason for this is because it will get hot, which in turn causes speckled trout to feed in shorter windows. They will feed while it's still cool, then take the rest of the day off to conserve energy. And that's really the gist of it. If you want to learn more, then I suggest taking my course, Summer Fish Location, which you will find linked below. But the overall point that I'm trying to make here is that if you don't get out there to your first fishing spot for the crack of dawn, then you are missing that short but productive window to catch a limit of speckled trout. Not 1 or 2, not a handful, a limit. So a good rule of thumb is that you have until about 9 a.m., maybe 11 a.m. to find the speckled trout bite before it's over. Anglers who don't make it happen by then usually spend the rest of the day grinding without much to show for it. Again, the reason for this rule is because it will get hot. But why does it get hot? Well, because the sun is out cooking the surface of the earth. But what if that's not the case? What if the water we are fishing is shielded from the sun? This is where cloud cover comes into play. Why overcast weather is so good for speckled trout fishing. If there's a thick layer of clouds to shade the area you want to fish, then you can count on speckled trout to respond in a way that is wholly different than if the sky were clear and the sun shining. While I could be wrong, I personally believe that speckled trout recognize this change in the conditions and take advantage of it by feeding for an extended period of time, possibly the entire day. They know that it's not going to get as hot as quickly as if the sun were out, so their feeding window, which was originally very narrow, now becomes much wider. That is what happened on that summer day in 2017. We got a late start, leaving Hope Del Marina for 8 a.m. and didn't find the fish until 1 p.m. It took some bouncing around, but once we found them, the bite was on. Fast and furious speckled trout action without a single throwback. We easily caught our limit of 75 speckled trout, caught and released some more, then headed back to the dock to clean fish. On a bright and bluebird day, that fishing trip would have been doomed. But because it was hard overcast and never got hot, the fish were feeding throughout the day. How much cloud cover do you want? You want all of it. Not partly cloudy, not a thin blanket that the sun can peek through. You want it to be hard overcast. In my experience, it must be hard overcast from the moment the sun rises. I have not found trout to feed through the day if the sun is out in the morning, then overcast weather rolls in. Why do speckled trout prefer overcast weather? I think that speckled trout prefer overcast weather as a general rule, and not just because of the cooling effect described earlier. Now, I could be wrong, and I am willing to accept that, but it's been my observation that these fish generally bite better when the weather is overcast. But there's more. A quirky thing my camera's caught. I have spent a good deal of time shooting video in the marsh, and doing so accidentally discovered something. I found that it's much harder to see underwater when the sun is out, especially in shallower water. There's like these dazzling, shimmering rays all over the place, kind of like a disco ball that makes it difficult to see. But When the sky is overcast, it becomes much easier to see underwater, at least for my human eye. There's no dazzling disco ball effect, and it's much easier to look up in the water column. And I really can't say anything definitive about this. It's just what I've seen on camera, and at some point in the future, there will have to be further investigation. Better planning for overcast speckled trout. So now that you have this little nugget of speckled trout fishing knowledge inside your head, you may be thinking, well, how can I plan for overcast weather? My favorite way to do this is to use Windfinder, either the smartphone app or the website. It's pretty easy. Just look below the wind forecast and you will see a prediction for what the skies will be like. But it is only a prediction. I would only use Windfinder as a guideline, as I think taking exact predictions as gospel could be a mistake to planning your fishing trip.
Not familiar with Windfinder? No problem. In my course Fishing Trip Planning Resources, you will discover all the resources that I use to plan epic fishing trips. Windfinder is only one of them, but it is the main one that I recommend to anyone trying to figure out where to go fishing. This course is only available inside my membership LAFB Elite, which successful anglers recommend. Watch this video or visit lafbelite.com. Tight lines, and thanks for watching.